is Shyloh, and the project I worked on for my science fair is the effect of exercise on heart rate. The heart is the core of our circulatory system, which consists of blood vessels that carries blood to every part of our body. The heart is a muscle, and its main function is to pump blood throughout our circulatory system. How does the heart pump blood? The right atrium receives the blood from the veins and pumps it to the right ventricle. The right ventricle receives the blood from the right atrium and pumps it to the lungs where the oxygen and loads it with oxygen. The left atrium receives the oxygenated blood from the lungs and pumps it to the left ventricle. The left ventricle, which is the strongest chamber, pumps the oxygen-rich blood to the rest of the body. The left ventricle's vigorous contractions create our blood pressure. The heart is one of the most important organs of the body. It is crucial that we take care of it. How do we do this? By exercising and eating right. This is why this experiment is dear to my heart. In order to ensure that we do the right amount of exercise to keep the heart strong and active, it is also important we know our limit. The heart rate is an indication of how hard our heart is working and how effective our work session is. To perform this experiment, I have developed a series of hypotheses which are to be tested. My hypothesis 1. Running will increase the heart rate of most of all the other exercises. Hypothesis 2. An adult's heart rate while running is higher than a kid's heart rate while performing the same exercise. Hypothesis 3. As the body position changes, so does the heart rate. In carrying out this experiment, I used 20 test subjects, and they're made to sit, stand, walk, jog, and run to determine how their heart rate changes with these activities. All these activities were carried out for 2 minutes. My variables. For my manipulated variable, I have 2. For my first one, I used different people to complete the same tasks. And for my second one, I used adults and kids with varying age groups to complete the same task. For my responding variable, it is different but similar results from each person. For my constant variable, it's doing the same exercise for the same amount of time for all the people participating in this study. I will demonstrate how I carried out this experiment by using one of my test subjects. I will need a smartwatch, of course a test subject, a writing pad, a pencil, and a timer. The first step was to make them sit down for 2 minutes. This is called the resting position, and I took their heart rate readings with using a smartwatch. This reading was taken 3 times to ensure the reliability of the data. I am making my test subject sit down for 2 minutes, and now I'm going to check his readings. His heart readings is 64, 66, and 67. This is how I did my experiment for all of my other 19 test subjects. The second step was making my test subjects stand for 2 minutes. I then took their heart rate readings 3 times as well. Now my test subject is now standing, has been standing for 2 minutes. I will now check their heart rate reading. It is now 85, 87, and 89. The third step was making them now walk briskly for 2 minutes. I also took their heart rate readings 3 times as well. Now my test subject is now been walking for 2 minutes. I will now check their heart rate readings. It is now 91, 95, and 96. My fourth step for my experiment was now for my test subject to jog for 2 minutes. I also took their heart rate 3 times. Now my test subject has been jogging for 2 minutes. I will check their heart rate now. 125, 122, and 121. The fifth step and the last step is for them now to run for 2 minutes. I checked their heart rate 3 times to make sure that my constant variable stays constant. test subject has now been running for 2 minutes. I will now check their heart rate to see what they got. 158, 157, 155. These are repeated for the remaining 19 test subjects, and their heart rate readings were recorded. The next stage of my experiment was to collect all my data to see if my hypotheses were correct. Hypothesis 1. Running will increase the heart rate the most out of all the others. From the data, I discovered that sitting had an average of 72.75 beats per minute. Standing had an average of 84.95 beats per minute. Walking had an average of 98.55 beats per minute. Jogging had an average of 128.70 beats per minute. And indeed, running increased the heart rate the most, as running had the highest average of 158.3 beats per minute. My second hypothesis was an adult's heart rate while running is higher than a kid's heart rate while performing the same exercise. For the second hypothesis, the average heart rate for the children was 160 beats per minute, while that of the adults was 155 beats per minute. The difference between them is not a significant one, and this is part of what I researched, that as children grow, their heart rate is almost as of an adult. This shows that my second hypothesis was incorrect. For my third hypothesis, it was, as the body position changes, so does the heart rate. The heart rate changes from sitting, standing, walking, jogging, and running in ascending order. This shows that as the intensity of the exercise increases, so does the heart rate. I have concluded that as the exercises become more intense, the heart rate increases. Also, age, body position, and the type of activity being carried out will also have an impact on heart rate. Some challenges I encountered. I encountered some challenges while carrying out this experiment. One of them was getting enough people to test out my experiment, as there are restrictions in place due to the present pandemic. I would have loved to test my hypothesis using a large number of subjects and a wider age range than what I used present. How does my project benefit people? Firstly, the reason I chose this particular subject area was how people's mindsets have changed as a result of the pandemic. This is because when one tests positive to the virus, survival rested mostly on how healthy you are and having no underlying health conditions. As I hiked with my mom last year at Fish Creek Park, I saw how dedicated people were to their well-being, and it gave me this idea for my project. I believe that my project is beneficial to the people as more and more people become enlightened of how exercise is important to their health. Exercise is good for the body, and in order to make sure that we get the very best from exercising, it is important to know the safe zone and monitor how hard your heart is working. In a sitting position, which is also called a resting position, if your heart rate is higher than normal, it can be an indication that something is wrong. To maximize one's workout, it is good that one reaches their target heart rate, which leads to a greater fitness level. This experiment will ensure that people know how different activities affect their heart rate and how they can get to the target heart rate at a safe zone. How I can further develop this experiment. I believe that I can further develop on this experiment in the future by examining how the heart rate of individuals under this age group that were considered for my project would be if they were obese. This is something I would want to explore in the near future to know the outcome. Thank you so much for this opportunity to explore this topic and help enlighten people on the benefits of exercising and taking good care of your heart. Stay safe out there.